very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Exchange for Media CIO Dialogues on Digital Customer Servicing Experience, Formative Digitalization, hosted by Adobe and Azure DX. The core of digital servicing today is digitalization. By increasing productivity and efficiency while reducing costs, digitalization focuses on creating cash by saving it and creating a significant impact in the digital transformation roadmap of an organization. And most importantly, on a CIO's KPIs. Formative digitalization is an exclusive CIO-led session that will take you through formative and advanced steps in modernizing the digital customer servicing experience from within the organization. It focuses on harnessing the power of data and intelligent workflows to further streamline operations across the entire institution, leading to reduced errors, saved time, optimizing costs, and most importantly, better post-acquisition and after-sales customer satisfaction. But before we jump straight into the discussion, we'd like to play an AV, which will give you an insight into exactly how well can digitalization help you to get out of tricky situations. Can you please have the AV?
Everybody on the floor! This is a robbery!
Don't move!
Get down! Now.
Don't move!
Get down and stay down!
You move! Money! Money! Open the floor!
Mr. Johnson? Eric Johnson?
How does she know your name?
I don't know.
Your mobile app pinged us when you walked in. Looks like you were on our website and thinking about buying a house.
You moving out, man?
I need my space.
You may think you can't afford a new home, but we have some amazing new rates. I could text them to you.
Oh, those are fantastic.
And Mr. Davis?
Yeah, it's me.
Did you click on one of our emails about consolidating your student loans?
Maybe.
Oh, well, we can help you with that too.
Hey, what are you doing? This is a robbery, remember? We gotta go! Come on!
Can I lock those rates in on the app?
Well, of course you can, sugar.
Thanks.
And to kickstart the discussion, I would like to now invite Mr. Vaishak Venugopalan, Head of Solutions Consulting, Adobe India. Hi, Vaishak.
Hello, Neeta.
Hi, and we also have Ankur Mittal, MD and co-founder of Azure DX. Hi, Ankur, and over to you.
Hi, Neeta. Hi, thanks for inviting me into the panel, Neeta, and how are you doing, Vaishak?
Doing great, Ankur. Let's kickstart this great discussion.
All right. So we have some great panel lined up today with us. We have Ashish Gupta, an alumnus of prestigious IIT Delhi. Ashish Gupta has donned various hats in his long tech inning, which has been a mix of entrepreneurship and serving in senior leadership roles with the brands like ICI Paint, studyplaces.com, Policy Bazaar. He's currently serving as CTO at leading insurance brand Max Bupa Health Insurance. Welcome, Ashish, to the panel.
Hey, thank you so much, Ankur, and thanks for making me feel so old.
How are you doing today, Ashish?
Very well, thank you.
All right. Who else do we have, Vaishak?
And it's my privilege and pleasure to introduce the Mazumdar. He has an acumen for technology and business insight. He's the Global Chief Digital and Information Officer at Piramal Glass, and he has successfully led multi-country IT deployments and change management programs. He has enabled business transformation in not only in India, but in Europe as well for large global organizations with very strong execution skill, bringing in a lot of innovation and people orientation. One interesting thing, Sudev is also a TEDx speaker, and he shares his expertise in creating future leaders. My pleasure and privilege to invite you to the panel today. Sudev, welcome.
Thanks so much. Thank you guys for inviting me here, and it's really a privilege to be here. And if I can share some of the, some of my experience, and I'll be really privileged. Thank you very much.
Look forward to that. Ankur, over to you for our next panelist.
So we have Dr. Uday Sawant. Welcome, Dr. Uday Sawant. He, in a career spanning over 3 decades with a proven track record in managing large transformation programs in mostly all the verticals, be it government, public sector, enterprises, everywhere. He has served varied customer segments in Fortune 500 companies and has led and mentored multicultural and cross-functional teams to ensure successful delivery of digital programs globally. Dr. Uday Sawant has constantly strived to bridge technology and strategic objectives to provide transformational business solutions. And he's also part of the One Digital Leadership Team and LTI, Larsen and Toubro Infotech, and currently heads the digital experience practice comprising of 1,000+ team members. Welcome, Dr. Uday Sawant.
Yes, hello everyone. Thank you. And thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be part of this discussion. And I hope to have a very good, interesting conversation today. Thank you.
Looking forward. So we are going to kind of break the, this panel discussion from the monotonous way. We are having Vishak to play a very important role today. Vishak is actually going to bring in the audience into the panel discussion, which we typically don't do. So he's going to, do some polling and some questions, and will bring in the people's opinion in the panel discussion as well, so that it's a well engaged discussion and we are just not talking among the 5 of us. So Vishak is going to do that. Vishak, you want to quickly brief how you are going to bring our audience view into the panel discussion today?
Exactly. So our audience is today part of the discussion. So stay tuned. We'll have you ask questions to our esteemed panel and also see what you think and feel about the topics that we are discussing today, right? It is super simple to participate. I'm just pasting a link into the chat pod, and you can also see that this is how you can actually participate. It's pretty easy. You can go to from your mobile phone, you can go to menti.com, as you can see on top, type in this code, which is 549271103, and you can start engaging in this live session today on your mobile phone or on your browser that's in there. Once you have logged in, keep that tab open, because we will be presenting more questions to you and opportunities for you to ask questions to this panel member and have your say as well. So keep that tab open, and be rest assured, as one of the moderator, I will bring in the audience perspective to the panel discussion today, so that it's going to get really interesting. A panel sharing questions from both the moderator and the audiences today. So there we have, as an icebreaker, I have the first question. I understand that a lot of people are bringing their office today, right? So bring your own office, and you can see your first question. Let's see how diverse of a group we have today, right? Please go ahead and enter into this particular menti.com, enter the code and pin your location, and we get to see which all parts of India are participating today in this particular discussion. Back to you, Ankur.
This exercise actually remembered me of my, 5th class days, when we used to have the political map and we used to draw the boundaries of the state. So interesting way to start the discussion, Vishak. Thanks for that. And people, please try to bring in your opinion. We definitely want to put our panelists in the tough spot and throw some curveballs. So we'll have some interesting polls, and then we'll also have open kind of question. Please help Vishak to bring in these questions to the panelists. So I think with that, we'll kick off the discussion, and we'll, I think, break the topic first. We'll break the buzzword digitalization versus digital transformation. So I think I'll start with you, Ashish. So in your opinion, what is digitalization versus digital transformation, and how does it differ in your organization?
Right. So I'll actually maybe answer that with an example that's fairly easy to understand. I'm not very knowledgeable, so I typically refrain from anything very intelligent. So I'll keep it simple. There are 3 terms that get used very, very often: digitization, digitalization, and automation or transformation interchangeably. And I think often it's a bit confusing as to what they are. My interpretation is as follows. Take a simple process, like you used to go to office and you used to fill up that register where you used to mark your attendance, right? Digitization is data being converted digital. So in that context, at the end of the month, probably somebody in HR took that register, entered into an Excel sheet. That's digitization. You've taken an offline data, made it online. Then came digitalization, where when you walked in, maybe there was an EA or you had a punching mechanism where you actually punched your attendance yourself. So no longer did the HR have to do that useless job of punching in that data. The data was digitalized. So a process is digitalized, data is digitized. That's the distinction between the two, in my opinion. And the third one is the transformation or automation. Now then you had biometrics, and in fact that's a partial transformation because the user still has to do something. They have to put their thumbprint in, and if you replace that with a video attendance mechanism, then that is complete automation. So depending on how you're looking at transformation, I think a biometric is a half transformation or automation, and a video one is a full one. So I think that's an example that comes to my mind when I think of these three things. Data, process, and then getting the user to be completely hands-free.
Great example, Ashish. And I think that actually simplifies, these three buzzwords. How do you basically differ that within your organization when it comes to the customer that you service as part of Max Bupa? How do you basically bring?
So the same principles apply right across, right? We talk of digitization first, right? We used to get all our claims up until last year, 12 months ago. We used to get 90% of our reimbursement claims as a policy document. Like people used to take a printout, they used to courier us the documents, somebody used to punch in all of that data. Because of COVID, and thankfully because of COVID, we didn't have that opportunity. Nobody was willing to courier their documents or go to a courier place. And in fact, the couriers weren't working very well, right? So we digitized everything. Now everything comes to us digitized, right? So no data do we actually punch in. Everything, the entire process is now, what I said, digitalized. The data is automatically digitized. And you'll be surprised to know that we moved from less than 5% digital submission to 94% digital submission in a matter of 3 months. I mean, nothing great that we did. There was no option. We had to survive it. We had to make those interfaces. But that's how rapidly digitalization happens. And similarly on customer service, I'll give another very, very simple example. What is the most important thing that happens in insurance? Only two things, right? Where is my policy? I bought a policy, I haven't received a soft copy. Or what is the status of my claim? I made a claim, I haven't got my payment yet. Right. And you look at the typical process, somebody would email, then somebody would look at it, and then somebody would punch in a few numbers in the back end in the system, come out with a status, mail the customer back, and the customer would, that's all nonsense, right? Because the system already knows what the status of the claim or the status of the policy is. So now what we are releasing, I think today, hopefully, is actually the complete automation of that process, where if a customer punches in, hey, where is my policy copy? The response comes to you right away. If the response is that, hey, your policy is already issued, and they say, I haven't received my policy copy, you'll actually get a WhatsApp, email, SMS with the policy copy right away. No human being required, complete automation, better tag for the customer, lower cost for us, everybody. It's a really, really simple but a big win-win. And our hope is by the end of the next about 8 to 10 months, about 70% of our customer requests would all be end-to-end automated, not needing a single human being or not needing more than 2 seconds to revert to the customer.
Great point. So in fact, I remember how IRDA, somewhere in the time of May actually allowed people to have the digital copies instead of, they wanted people to sign the hard copies when they receive their insurance. And I think I'll take that question to Dr. Uday Sawant, because the part of, his engagements also deals with a lot of public sector and has been involved in policy and decision making at the government side, and not just from IRDA perspective. He deals with a lot of different type of customers. So Dr. Uday, how do you basically see digitalization versus digital transformation with the clients you deal with?
Yeah. So thank you. And I think the definition is quite clear already: digitization, digitalization, and digital transformation. So just to explain it a bit further, the digitalization is again specifically a process, single process. For example, one of our customers, Otis Elevators, right? Say they have automated a process of filing the timesheet of a elevator repair mechanic. So mechanic goes to the site, opens a mobile app, services the elevator, enters the information, his location, his time, start time, end time, everything is captured, his travel time is captured, and something which was done on paper earlier and once in a month taken to office, enter that data into the system, and all the payments and all are generated, that's got digitized. The approval of that times booking is also done by supervisor on the job. So that's the process. But digital transformation for me is a collection of such individual digitalizations with a larger business objective. Let me give another example from our parent company, Larsen & Toubro. So the Larsen & Toubro found that they wanted to improve their profitability, and that objective was looked at with what are the pain points. The pain points were so many construction sites, so many equipments, many of them are leased, many of the workers are actually contract workers, not our employees. How many people report at a site, how many people on what particular day, everything was done on paper. Now the biggest pain points were derived that we do not know where is my material, where is my equipment. So we decided to sensorize our equipment, for example, cranes. And if I have to lift a 14-ton object and I get a 25-ton crane, is it really necessary? Is there a crane nearby which can do the job when transported about 2 kilometers or even 5 kilometers? So all of that put together, we decided to sensorize, started collecting data, and over a period of time derived the objectives that how we can optimize the movement of equipment and movement of material. So I think that larger business objective of optimizing material, optimizing equipment is one such example of digital transformation. In the earlier example, the digital transformation objective would be for the OT elevators is to optimize the repair workforce, or just do the repair job right in time, before time, or if something has taken 5 visits or 6 visits of a mechanic, if you can cut it down to 3 visits, it will translate something XYZ, X amount of dollars in terms of your bottom line. I think that is the digital transformation in my opinion.
Great example, Dr. Uday. In fact, it also kind of reflects on how we can actually get so much of data you just talked about, and how we can, create models on the top of this data to kind of add to our bottom line through that data if we basically go into digitalization. And I'm just going to come back to you, Sudeep, shortly. I'm going to kind of bring in the audience opinion on this. Vishak was running a poll while we were talking about digital versus digitalization or versus transformation. Vishak, what does our audience have to say on this?
Yeah, so, thank you for the great opinions to panelists. The audience have also spoken, right? So they are saying, hey, you know what, the first word when it comes to digitization, digital transformation that comes into my mind is automation, efficiency, having everything on mobile, traceability, technology, the experience, increased ROI. Very, very interesting points indeed. So that's when I would like to bring in Sudeep now here. Sudeep, what are your initial reactions to what these audiences are actually saying these words? And also, tell us an example of what was the most unexpected of places where digital has impacted in your organization as such.
So thanks very much, Ankur and Vishak for bringing me in. And I think Ashish and Uday actually gave a great start and talked about a lot of important things. But let me just pick up what Uday said. Larsen & Toubro, my last company, so I can just take a straw from there. What he said that, if you look at the one last he mentioned, which is basically, when we sensorized and we kind of digitalized 12,000 equipment. So the impact, obviously the digital transformation impacts everything, not only inside or outside as well, right? And that's what the transformation is all about. Transformation is not about your own institution, but also outside. So that's the transformation. But important in this is how it can impact somebody else within the organization. Forget the outside, within the organization. And it's a kind of an unthinkable some of the terms. Let me just look at it. You know, if such kind of stuff is going on, digitalization or digital transformation going on in an organization, what generally, who never takes part in that? Which function never takes part in that? Maybe sometimes legal. Yeah, they think that nothing has changed in the world, in our world. So I'm talking about the legal world. Maybe sometimes procurement as well. Yeah, nothing has changed. It's technology. It's the business. It's the guys who are the site, etc. Let me give an example on how it impacted them, and nobody could understand how it could impact. Right. So let's look at one of the equipment that we purchased. It was an outright purchase. L&T does actually. Let's not take the name, but it does. We outright purchase from some of the companies, right? Which we are one of the largest company, largest capex spender. So we got this equipment. It was put into action. It was taking out the data, obviously soil, it was a subsoil work. And the company said that, and we said that, you know what, we need to understand what's there because we need to understand the substrata, right? So subsoil. And they said, no, we can't give you the data because data is ours. I said, hang on. You know, we did that discussion. We said that, you know, hang on there because the data is from the soil. I bought the equipment, outright purchase, no string attached. How can you say that the data is yours? No, so data is ours because technology is ours. Technology is patented, so we can't give you the data. Then we actually had a discussion, and I had that very hard discussion. I said that, you know what, 2 counts. We can have a very hard dialogue here. One, I have outrightly purchased that equipment. You can't say that this is yours and the data is yours. One, the data cannot go outside India because as per the legal definition, residents cannot be outside. The second one is anything below 2 meters is a government property, not anybody's property. You can't just take anything actually. You know what? Now then, so what is the impact? Impact is on the procurement. Next time the procurement goes to the procurement, I mean the purchasing the machine, they need to make sure that they talk about these, right? So that nobody can come back and say that the technology is ours, material is yours, money is yours, and data is somebody else's. Legal, so squarely impacted because they need to have that legal, you know, support for the procurement. So sometimes we feel that it's a technology, it's a field, is the operator, is the equipment. No, this is squarely, you know, this may squarely impact your legal, your procurement, your finance, a lot of people. So we need to understand that neural network of impact within the organization, right? Generally, we don't understand, or we do think there's a local impact. Actually, it has global impact. I'm not going beyond the boundary. Actually, it is the beyond the boundary case. If you look at it, talks about data residency. It talks about whose data it is, whose rights on the data, right? Even government also can be involved in that. So that's why it is a transformation case. It is not mere digitalization or digitization. It transforms the way we look at a digital intervention, right? Thank you.
True. I mean, very well said, Sudeep, right? And agreeing to all of the 3 panelists, the interesting aspect here is, and I want to show you this as well, right? The audience also, you know, unanimously agrees, right? The most voted terms over here is automation and change. We just talked about this, right? Change, transformation. Yeah. Be ready for this. That's what the major thing that's going to actually come at you when it comes to digitization or digital transformation. Thank you so much. Back to you, Ankur, for the next question. Meanwhile, I'll prep the audience to have their views on some other topic.
Yeah, sure. Thanks a lot, Vishak. And by the way, I really like someone wrote 24/7. So that's a great perspective to look at digitalization. So great insight into what our audience think. So I think, so we basically, when we talk to our customer, we typically look at digital transformation from 5 buckets perspective: acquisition, conversion, customer servicing, retention, and loyalty. And customer servicing is, one anchor from where retention and loyalty, kind of drives. So my question to you, Ashish, is since you are, kind of in a B2C kind of a business, when you look at customer servicing, retention, and loyalty, what are the things as a CTO your organization feels challenged with, and what is it that basically keeps you up at night and continues to drive you harder and harder to basically drive that digitalization and the customer experience?
Yeah, so obviously the whole customer service fulfillment satisfaction is a very big index for most companies, not just B2C, but especially so for B2C. And within B2C, insurance, I think it's even more relevant because it's not a natural product. It's not an instinctive product. It's not a product that has a low bar of satisfaction, right? So you don't really buy insurance until somebody around you has an event and then has successfully made a claim. And then you're like, dude, that guy would have gotten Rogered if he had not got insurance, and let me also get insurance. Or the converse also happens. That guy got Rogered because he did not have insurance, so let me get insurance. So in that sense, for us, it's make or break. It's no longer about helping us acquire more customers or a bit more growth rate, a bit more profitability. It's actually survival for us, because the moment people feel you're not paying claims either enough or in time, that's where your brand gets killed. You can do any level of marketing after that. It's not going to pull you back. So in that sense, it is critical. It is extremely time bound. Remember that half of our claims are cashless, which means that the person is at the hospital. And imagine the pressure on that, right? You are actually making a person wait in the hospital while you are taking a decision on the claim. And imagine a downtime or a performance issue at that time. So if you ask me, and I've been in a lot of industries, right? I've never felt that pressure that I feel here. That a downtime would at maximum lose you some sale. It will lose you some level of customer satisfaction. Here, you're actually telling a person that, hey, look, our systems are not working. Can you please stay in the hospital for one more day? And you can go home tomorrow. What's the rush? What's there at your home? Right? And imagine trying to say that to a customer. I mean, imagine if somebody said that to you, you wouldn't even understand what the hell was going on. So I think in this industry, it's even more critical. And we are trying our maximum amount of effort in actually making that experience actually as seamless as possible. So we talked about the other side of claim, which is reimbursement claims, where you go home and make a claim. That has been completely digitized, and now we're trying to figure out ways of automating it. We're also trying to do the same for real-time claims, such that the adjudication. So we built a fairly robust rule engine that we intend to deploy for claims very soon. We've already deployed it for our issuance process, which is the sales process. Now we are trying to deploy it for our claims process, wherein, if all the data is there, then a human being really doesn't add that much value, right? So a claim can actually, why should a claim take, so we have a 30 minutes promise. Why should a claim actually take even 30 minutes? Why can't it be done in 30 seconds? Why can't every customer, why can't a person in a hospital never be told that, hey, we are waiting for the insurance company to approve your claim? And that's my wish list, and that's what keeps me excited, as well as keeps me up at night.
Awesome. No, that's a great thought, Ashish. In fact, all those buzzwords, the cloud that we just saw, they were popping up when you were talking, the 24/7, the time to react with the digitalization, how that has basically become one of the challenges that you basically discussed. I think, Dr. Uday, I would like to kind of take your view on one thing that was also there in those buzzwords, but at the same time, sometimes keeps the CIOs up, which is the security, the traceability of the data. What is your view on that? How can digitalization be ensured and then get secure and keep the customer contempt and secure while you are going through this transformation?
Okay, so let me attempt that, though I don't claim to be a security expert. But I think everybody knows this, but I'm just repeating. The security has to be built in right in the beginning and in the design and in the implementation. It cannot be an afterthought. Now, having said that, take example of banking or insurance. There is a customer data that is there, and the customer data is getting stored. And the companies like insurance and in banking sector, they will have really large liabilities. So one is, it is about data security, storing the data securely, accessing that data. And then while there is a transaction that is happening, okay, OWASP compliance, OWASP 2.0 compliance, or there are certain very specific in healthcare industry, there is HIPAA compliance about personal medical data, etc. While there is a transactions, and in the mobile application, there is another challenge. You store data locally, right? You may not have connectivity all the time. So mobile application, most of the times they have to work on in offline mode, unlike the web application. And that therein lies, and mobile devices are much more vulnerable to theft and unauthorized usage, etc., etc. So essentially very important, but it has to be designed right in the system. So much so that today software services companies like L&T Infotech, there is a separate security practice which comes into picture for any project implementation. Okay. And I don't want to get into technical details of network security, data security, application security, but yes, this is something which is built into the design. That's the point I want to drive for. Yeah.
All right, I think that's a great point that Dr. Uday mentioned, that it has to be baked into the system. It is not something that you can just build on the go. So you have to basically invest in more standardized, platform where you basically have the security tested through and through. The data is there, and there is a lot of standardization around the workflows and things like that as well. Vishak, do you want to bring our audience opinion into what do they feel about the whole aspect of this?
Sure. There's a very interesting, opinion from our audiences, and I would like to throw this question to Sudeep, you first, and then to you, Ashish. Right? We asked them, hey, you know what? Where do you expect digital to have the maximum impact on? Right? And I expect your opinion. Do you agree with this? They're saying, you know what, the maximum impact I want. These are senior executives participating as into this particular discussion. They're saying the number one and number two are operational efficiency and customer experience. They're saying saving cost and generating revenue. Those, I don't know. I think they're thinking that, hey, that's a byproduct eventually going to come in. What are your opinion, Sudeep? If I can start with you and then move on to Ashish.
Put my perspective, actually, the 1 and 3 is probably correlated, and 2 and 4 are correlated in my view. Yeah, because whenever you generate efficiency out of the system, it actually saves cost because you are doing things faster, right? That's one. Secondly, is customer experience. When the customer is happy with the experience is good, obviously we'll be expecting some more products or more frequency of the products to be purchased, or some good words flowing to influence others to buy your product, right? So I think the most important thing is that, coming back to this important thing. One is the efficiency generation and the revenue generation. Let me put it these two categories. Now, the efficiency generation, if I look at it, my current organization, right, where we are putting up a DNA, which is Digital and Analytics Academy, which is where we are actually investing in building talent, and through advanced analytics, we are looking at the operational efficiency. So what is it, operational efficiency that we are doing? It's simple, is we have sensorized, different parts of the organization, different parts of the manufacturing. Mm-hmm. We're getting the data as, we spoke about earlier. But through advanced analytics, we are developing different kinds of model to understand the behavior of various variables. And actually, we are looking at how to optimize that and make it more efficient. And if you look at, some of the times we don't understand even, but we obviously get benefits when energy consumption, right? How do you make it? And then I can take this into a different category. Energy consumption is nothing but sustainability, right? Not only operational efficiency, but also much larger topic of transformation, sustainability, achieving sustainability. I think I can clearly see that where people are coming from. My experience, I can go, pages after pages on these, and each of these topic, number of interventions. But I largely agree with what you said. The customer experience is very important. One more thing, lot of times we feel that, sensorization and digitization actually, or, it will be giving us the more efficiency and saving cost. Yes, that's a measurable and very quickly. Now, customer experience and led by customer experience generating revenue, it could be a lead lag. It's a lag variable a little bit. That's why sometimes we get tempted by looking at the lead variable or kind of immediate return on lead variable rather than a lag variable. So I can largely agree with what audience said, and you have to really think about your own organizations. How do you go for digital transformation or digitalization? Because that gives you the perspectives, whether you will be looking at very short-term impact, create the believability, go for a long-term impact, or you stay in the short-term impact because you know that there could be some more and more. Or sometimes I'll not look at the short-term impact. I'll only look at the long-term impact because I'd lead the organization, 3 years down the roads to be the global leader. If that is the case, so you'll have a different opinions and different options with you. But largely, fantastic, agree with them.
So before you bring
Sudhir.
in Vishak, Ashish's opinion, I know he has a hard stop. I would like to just add a layer to this question or the people opinion. So Ashish, I know that Max Bupa is going through rebranding. True North basically acquired 51% stake from Max India. So because you transformed all of your processes and everything into a digital format, do you also see the, what people opinion is coming? Did you achieve operational efficiency while going through that rebranding? Or did you, save a lot of cost while basically going through that transformation from Max Bupa to True North branding, Ashish?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we did achieve a lot of that. But I think our experience, and again, I think there's a context to the answers that the audience also gave. You saw operational efficiency as number one, and revenue as number 4. And I'll tell you why that is. I'll add my philosophy, and I'll add a touch of controversy by going the other way instead of agreeing. I think that depends on how wide your canvas is. And when most people think digital, the first thing that's coming to my mind is I do something, I have a company that's running a process. How do I bring digital into this? Now, if you're bringing digital into something, quite obviously operational efficiency, customer satisfaction would be number 1. But just widen the horizon and ask the question, what can digital do for me? And then you'll suddenly realize that revenue will become number 1. So look at the digital revolutions around us. Don't look at just your company. Look at the digital revolution around you. Look at what's happened in EdTech. Look at what's happened in food tech. Let's look at what happened at least pre-COVID in taxi transformation, right? These are all digital transformations of an existing offline industry. And what has that done? The first thing it's done is generate massive amount of revenues, not just for the person who did the digitalization, by the way, but for the industry. Today, we eat far more out of home food because there's a Zomato and a Swiggy, right? Our parents, I couldn't my dad would shoot me before he booked a taxi, right? He'd rather not have a son than have a son who booked a taxi, right? That's the honest truth, right? But today, when I say that, hey, why don't you come over? I'll come and pick you up. The first sentence he says is that, yaar, tang mat kar, yaar, tang mat ho, main aa jaunga. I'll take an Uber and come. Why do you want to come pick me up? These are things that could have never happened. So industries have been transformed. Even if you look at the whole travel, the travel became accessible. Hotels, flights became so convenient. The whole industry boomeranged just because of the digital transformation. So I think it depends on the canvas. If you ask yourself a question saying, I have a process, what can digital do for that process? Then operational. But if you widen the horizon and say, hey, what can I use digital for? You'll actually find revenue is actually number 1. And for us, that's been the story. Because what's happened in this last year, because that coincided with the transition that you asked me about, is what's happened is that COVID's happened and insurance has hitherto been a fairly offline industry. You either visited a bank branch or your agent, or you called an agent home. And the moment that got disrupted, all of us who were more digital than maybe some of the others got a massive advantage. Our growth rates are, not to be arrogant, but our growth rates have been positively impacted by the fact that we were able to be more digital. And the industry hasn't grown out of whack, but some of our growth rates are out of whack, right? And positively so. So I think it's a little bit to do with the canvas. I think if you open up your mind, I think you'll realize that revenue is the first thing that comes to the mind, because revenue is the first thing that anybody is willing to fund, by the way. And that's why you keep hearing these debates on, how do I fund my digital transformation? How do I convince my CEO to give me money? Easiest way is to make more money than you're spending. So if you tell your CEO that give me 10 crores, I'll give you 15 back, who's going to say no to you? And I think that's always been my approach, that, between incremental revenue and cost saving, the ROI should be greater than 100%, and then you don't need the CEO to approve any project. So that's my take on it. Ankur, by the way, I'm around for the full time. I don't have a hard stop anymore.
Awesome. I was already enjoying our conversation. So great that you are there with us, and great perspective. So in fact, Vishak, the way he kind of, I would say converged the 3 points into the revenue. So it kind of makes sense that it is a funnel, operational efficiency, all these will actually lead to the revenue. I would like to kind of take Dr. Uday's view on this. So I'm going to kind of go one level down, peel the onion a little bit. So, talk about a very important topic. You have already touched about it a little bit when you talked about the Otis elevator example, how people, your mechanics basically started using mobile application to basically punch in their numbers. Then conventional, paper forms started using, I guess, non-traditional workflows in a digital format, and you had, suddenly access to all this data. In fact, I have a number from a national study from AIM. Single paper form is going to cost a business $3.83 to process, and we are processing and churning so many paper forms. So how can organizations justify and quantify the cost? So some of it Ashish has already talked about, but how can organizations develop a metrics around it to basically justify this cost? How, as Ashish mentioned, if you, kind of simplify it and look at it from a wider lens, you can go to your CEO, ask for that cost, and it all makes sense. But how does procurement basically, put it in a metrics and justify these costs, and also bring in the non-quantifiable factors? Like, for example, the man hours spent processing those forms, or to handle the errors and omission. I read some study which mentioned that banking industry loses millions of dollars in errors and omissions. How do we bring those non-quantifiable data into the metrics when evaluating the cost of this digitalization?
Good question. So first of all, I agree with Ashish that if you put it in a way that it will generate more revenue than what you are going to spend, I think the approvals go through very smoothly, and you don't have to go back and forth with your COOs and CEOs. For the non-quantifiable, where the time, collective bandwidth of senior management is spent on the processes, approval, and if something goes wrong, correcting that. And not to speak that when something goes wrong, and if it is a customer facing process, there is a dissatisfaction that is generated, directly impacting customer experience. And I think that would really impact. Talking about non-tangible objectives, so let me give an example of Ministry of Corporate Affairs, which is our customer, and which is where L&T Infotech has implemented Adobe form-based solution. So if you see, it's a very complex organization, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, huge amount of services. First of all, they have an enormous amount of content, right? In terms of their citizens charter, the manuals, the notifications, and all this compliance information, etc. Huge amount of acts, like right from Company Act, Competition Act, Partnership, and whatnot, Societies Registration Act even. Quite a humongous amount of services, right from DIN services, directors information, so LLP, limited liability partnership company. So it's all digitalized, or I would say digitally transformed. Now, you may argue that if you have a form which is digitalized and converted it into a digital form, it's a digitalization and not a digital transformation, right? But I look at it in a different way. To me, a digital transformation of something like MCA, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, where huge amount of services, right from your, as I said, DN services, LLP services, the compliance reporting, quarterly filing, and whatnot. Every time a partner is resigning, partner is on board, you need to file. There are something like 108 forms, all included. And they have to be filled, they have to be uploaded. So previously, people used to fill them in PDF format and then try to upload. The upload went wrong and you have to start all over again. And also the fact that if you made a mistake somewhere in filling the form, it is the further workflow related to that mistake is triggered only after the form is processed offline. But then now if you have a web-based form, it gets caught then and there. And it basically, it doesn't allow any mistake to happen. So if now I look at it from the perspective of digital transformation, the objective, remember the first question I answered where I said there has to be an objective. The objective here is to go up in the ease of doing business internationally. And what does that mean for India? It's not just an achievement, going 5 places or 10 places up in the list. It translates to investment inflow for India. It translates, therefore, this money goes into creating jobs, and this creating jobs actually uplift the people from poverty. So I wanted to give that perspective for the digital transformation. And this is an example where all of this intangible time spent, the number of resources that are required for processing all those forms, and then there are chances of human error both while form filling or while approving, and the amount of person hours lost. Okay, this is something a great example at government level.
Great example, Dr. Uday. In fact, seems like now my company secretary will not be able to salvage money from me for filing some forms that he probably might not have, and I'll have a better control over my company data, what is going into MCA. So I'm already looking forward to looking at this, I guess, digitally transformed MCA site. So we talked about this whole metrics. Dr. Uday talked about some aspects. So question to you, Sudeep, in your organization, how does your team at CIO level or at procurement level, basically brings all these factors in while basically justifying the cost of, this cost of digitalization or bringing, converting paper to digital and, investing in digital workflows. How do you do it at your organization? Sudeep, you need to unmute.
Sorry. So I think it has got multiple elements, to be honest. First of all, justification. If I look at the entire digital portfolio justification, there are different ways to do it, and it's not easy some of the times because new technology, new era needs new way of looking at ROI. If we are thinking of looking at 80s lens and justification of blockchain, I'm sorry, nobody can justify the blockchain in that case. I mean, it's difficult to justify. Not nobody can. I'm trying myself. So that's one part of it. Second part of it is there are different ways. There are some direct measurement, right? Well, direct measurement is, how many forms are there. Like I can give you plenty of example. Like again, the last organization we did simple safety and the quality checks, which were being done on paper. And we actually simply digitized that. And we did 4.2 million A4 pages we saved in 1 year, right? So on paper saving is directly related to number of trees cut. So many tons of carbon dioxide, or you save the carbon footprint, right? So I can, metrics is, what kind of metric you'll be using is up to you. And not only always a metric, it depends on the same metric can be looked at from multiple angles, depending on multiple forums. Again, as Ashish said, what canvas you are using, right? If I'm using a sustainability canvas, I'll do it differently. If I talk to a CFO, I'll talk numbers, right? But having said that, I think it's some practical, we are also doing lots of work, this digital forms, and it's just digital workflow for service, for supply chain, etc. We are doing lots of stuff with Adobe as well. But important is, I think, to understand that ultimately, if you want to build a digital ecosystem within our company, outside the company, data is important. I think the forms are not to be looked at a form for today. It should be looked at a gold mine of data for tomorrow, right? So the processes, the amount of processes that you are digitalizing or whatever the term you call, the amount of data from the processes, direct as well as some other places, if you get that, your analytics will be far superior than many, right? And that's what exactly we are trying to do. We have gone from digital to analytics stage, as I told you that, I just tried to explain that the Advanced Analytics Academy, we are looking at data from every possible sources, including these digital forms. So where is it going? How is it going from there? And so that, there's no intervention also of the people. We are just taking directly from the server and putting it in our data lake and trying to match with the type of mines actually we are getting the raw materials from. Similarly, we are also looking at, what kind of transportation that we used, whether there can be better transportation. So many things we are doing. I can't just talk all these points at this point in time, but the effort is on, right? So one part is direct measurement. Second part is, this is a leap of faith, the belief that it will help, because the processes are getting, you're not going to your customers or going to your suppliers every now and then with a handheld form and say that, sign on it. That used to be done pre-1947 era, that the sign is required. But the third part is generating for the future, generating data for the future. In fact, if you look at this, I can't have an ROI at this stage. I can't have a ROI. I can't tell that what ROI is this. But what I believe is the amount of data we are getting, and when you match it up with my transportation, match it up with my people's locations, match it up with my my sources, like as I talked about mines, and the quality of the raw material specs, etc. From there, and the amount of data that we are getting and mashing it up, I mean, it is doing wonder. That's what I'm saying. I can't just say everything, but I can tell you this already started doing wonder. And just in the interest of my IP, I can't say too much, but I can tell you that have some belief before you go into that. And I'm telling you the amount of surprise that you'll be getting in terms of money later on, which you cannot justify in any of the Excel sheets or ROI tool that has been given to you. Yeah.
Great input, Sudeep. In fact, you have drawn some new tangents, and trust me, my sales team is going to bug you to take coaching from you, because the way you have justified how to kind of look at the investment into digitalization, I think it will make for a great sales pitch for my team for sure. I actually have a lot more questions, but I think I would like to kind of take a pause and see, Vishak, if our audience has any questions and they would like to kind of ask our panelists anything.
Yes, definitely. And I want to pick my favorite for this time, which is people wants practical examples, right? So give us some quick wins, right? So which I can quickly, as a CIO or CTO, can quickly cover it, which will have some significant impact on revenue and cost. I think what this particular questionnaire wants to know is, give us some examples, give us some tips and tricks, quick wins, or fail fast, whatever that is. And before I pass it over to the panel, I want to answer it with one of the examples that we recently did, which is it's a very quick win as such. One of the organizations that we work with said, hey, I want to automate the entire onboarding process for new employees because everybody is joining remote, right? And I have to have them sign PF forms, fill it, sign it, their agreements and whatnot, everything, send it, ship it, courier it, whatnot. And we sort of completely automate that entire employee onboarding process, right from the HRMS till automatically shipping the new laptop to their houses, because we are all working in a remote economy as such, right? So we did this entire automation project thanks to amazing solutions that Adobe has built with low-code platforms with AEM Forms and Adobe Sign, so that we have verified Aadhaar authenticated signatures saying that, yes, I agree to whatever that you actually said in the employment agreement. And start to end, testing, tryout, shipment, everything 30 days flat. And today on a daily basis, they onboard more than 100 employees using this particular platform. That was one example which I had to share. Now over to you, Ashish, if you can answer with some quick wins from your experience, and then we'll go to Uday and Sudeep after that.
Yeah, I mean, there are plenty that come to my mind. I've already talked about a couple, so I'll just repeat them and add a layer. So like one was definitely the whole reimbursement claims process. When COVID hit, we didn't have the luxury of saying we'll take 6 months to build a process. So please hold on and fund your hospitalization for the next 6 months. That's a project that moves from 5% digital to 95% digital in a matter of, I think, about 45 to 50 days. Awesome. So that's one project that comes to my mind. Huge impact, significant impact, not just on customer satisfaction, but actually on cost, because the amount of time we were spending in getting those couriers, punching in all the data was just humongous, right? So not only did it impact customer satisfaction, but big impact on cost. The other one, again, is the rule engine. Again, end to end, it went live from conceptualization to go live in about 60 days. This is where the customer self-declares their medical questionnaires. It's a responsive questionnaire, so it changes based on what you say yes and no to, and takes more details. And then the automation happens that the response of the underwriting is presented right there to the customer even before they buy the policy. Now, I'll tell you why that's significant. One, it's great customer satisfaction. I buy a policy, I issue the policy immediately. Nobody's manually looking at it. Second, imagine the experience in which we reject a policy after taking money from the customers. The customer's paid. Now somebody looks at the form and says, hey, we can't pay this guy. We can't give this guy policy because of some medical declaration. Imagine how bad that is for the customer. Now you go back to the customer and say, hey, I'm sorry, we can't really issue a policy. And the customer is like, why the hell did you take my money in the first place? Right. So from a customer satisfaction, from a cost saving perspective, and now definitely what's been told to me by the sales team is that it's become a big revenue generator as well, because that is something that we are able to pitch, which not a lot of other companies are. So the sales team goes in and says that, sir, with that company, this will undergo a process and you'll get your policy in 15 days. Here, the decision. So if the decision is okay, you'll actually get the policy within the next few minutes. And that becomes a big sales tool. So both impact on cost and revenue there.
Thank you, Ashish. Dr. Uday, would you like to share some examples, quick wins?
Yeah. Of course, I would like to share a couple of them. So the first one, I will go back to the MCA, Ministry of Corporate Affairs. I think if you look at in the numbers perspective, I already talked about something like more than 100 forms, but there are 21 lakh plus companies and more than 2 lakh limited liability partnerships. So average filing per day happens to be up close to the range of 30,000. And in peak period, it goes to something like 45 to 50,000 per day. Is the filing amount that happens in this application. So, and even if it is a non-peak period, it will be nothing less than 20,000 filings per day. So look at the amount of time that used to be wasted when I submit a PDF file and there is some error in that, it is rejected. So something like it is which was taking 20-30 minutes for small forms and 30 to 45 minutes for larger forms, the time has come down to something like 10 minutes or even less than that. Okay, so that's an per filing, and now you can just multiply, do the math, and see almost 60,000 plus hours daily kind of saving. And I go back to my earlier statement that what it does, it actually contributes to the ease of doing business. And then I talked about going up in the ladder and inflow, etc. So that's a very good example of digitization, saving time, and ultimately achieving the objective. The other ones I could give is about a banking, and it is not a one single program that in banking. I think typically banks have taken customer onboarding as a separate process, and then there is a retail banking or SME banking, loan origination, and then ultimately wealth management. So if you are now talking about a customer who has been onboarded either for a bank account or for a card or for a loan, then taking them into the actual running the business, right? The operational part of it, and then taking that customer to the wealth management. We are talking here about now loyalty. So lot of data capturing, deep personalization, that is all will have to be done. So I think it was well said that a form is just a form, but for someone that form is actually a data, right? Yeah. So, and if you capture that data, your ultimate objective is to go to the customer retention and loyalty and take him to the wealth management, the banking itself.
Thank you, Uday, for sharing the banking example as well as the ease of doing business, right? I mean, experience is experience. Whether your customer is an individual or a company, it remains an experience to be delivered. Yeah. Sudeep, over to you, to our audience. What are the quick wins? Some of the tips and tricks, I think, is what the audience is expecting today.
Sorry, Vishak, I'm just adding a layer to that question for Sudeep. Sudeep has brought in a very interesting angles. So, Sudeep, since you have served on both sides of the table, with your LTI stint and now in a product company, so what are the quick wins that companies an organization generically can achieve in 2-3 months' time? What are the low-hanging fruits that a company should target for? Can you give some insight from that perspective?
So that's what I said earlier, the approach, and what Ashish said also, the canvas. Context is very important. Yeah. Ashish actually pointed out very nicely that you have to come from which context. Rather, you have to come from a right context while you take what are the quick wins. Now, typically, his industry and the manufacturing industry is a little different, right? That's why manufacturing industry generally has seen that first go directly into manufacturing. But typically, if you look at Indian manufacturing sector, I mean, I'm no disrespect or no belittling anybody, but I think there are lots of opportunities in the Indian manufacturing sector, right? It's a lot of things are quite manual and can be done automated. So the more automation you do, the more data you get, the more the advanced analytics is important for you. Now, when you are looking for quick wins, so quick wins is generally, in my view, over the last quite a few years on digital and IT both. Digitalization, commitment of digitalization from the CXO will be obtained or will be reinforced when you show the return quickly. And that quickly return means typical 3 months return. Right? It's as Gartner says that in a bimodal or whatever it is, I'm just going into that direction. But first is you'll have to show some benefit, and show benefit in those, and choose those areas where actually you think benefit will be realized. And manufacturing is one of them. Again, from manufacturing point of view, I'm coming, right? Even in construction also, we have seen that. So first is, and don't look at more than 3 to 4 months a wave. Yeah, look at the waves. Look at very short use cases, or the short use case, 3 to 4 months use cases. And before you go, try to look at what value you can extract, number one. Number two is that look at, to extract that value, do you have the right kind of data, and is it feasible? Both important. Right kind of data is there, but feasible is not that. Feasible is not because you don't have the data scientist, or maybe you don't have the right kind of qualified people, or maybe some other reason your structure is not ready, organization is not ready. Could be both, right? Both the way. So look at that and then jump into, right? And try to make it a very intense effort, so that within 3 months you can show some benefit, 3 to 4 months show some benefit, and it is to be validated also as much as possible by the finance. Yeah, take them along. So it's a collaborative. So that's, I think, the first mantra. Second is there will be some initiatives which will be longer than others. In my view, in the manufacturing sector, you know what happened is changing a product is quite difficult, right? Some new product development is even more difficult. Even it takes time, right? So by the way of changing new product in the physical product segment, possibly will be, I would say, it's a bimodal longer arm. Shorter arm should be look at manufacturing, look at procurement. Procurement, I've seen in all companies in the past, procurement gives you money. Look at very simple in your, we used to say that, look at simply your ERP. Look at how many duplications are there of a single master item. Right? I'm not going to the numbers, but same item, you will see that there are hundreds. I mean, the larger the company, more the variation. It's simple. We did in L&T, I did it in Piramal. Both the places, the very same thing. Actually, we looked at the number master item and we simply saw that, we have purchased the same item in 100 ways. Just make sure within the band, right? So procurement, manufacturing, they're the clear, quick shot that you can have. You can shoot at, because there will be money. And once you generate the believability of the management, then you'll see that the purse is opening. Yeah, because why the management is not open today, it's another beast for them, right? They think all the people love to talk. Any CXO love to talk about digital. Any CXO, I can tell you, because if you are not talking, doing later, not talking, you are a dodo. So you will be talking, but the purse string doesn't open so quickly. Right? To open that, you have to show that elements of believability. But one more thing, sorry, I know the time is very. Don't take the technology which may show a little lag benefit. Yeah, like blockchain. It's fantastic to go for it. I'm doing it, I know. But can you show anything on the blockchain in 3 months? I believe they'll have to just look at it. If you can, fantastic. If you can't, don't take it. Take it in a different track. But take those IoT, AI, ML is a nice track to take. Yeah, it shows benefit, right? There are lots of other things are there, which can show benefit. In fact, AR, VR, XR technologies will benefit the CX space, right? I don't know on the insurance space. We'll have to think of how do we use that. But certainly, where there is a physical product, there could be a great example of generating revenue or saving cost. And impact should be within 3 to 4 months. If you are not, look at your portfolio once again.
I'll actually very quickly add to your question, Ankur. From my personal experience, it is a slightly lighter note to share. But I tell you, the one that I find the easiest and the lowest hanging fruit is digitalization of processes to eliminate manpower cost. And I'll tell you why that's always the low hanging fruit. If you review 20, if you look at a new setup and review 20 manual processes, I can guarantee you will find 4 that don't need to be digitalized, that are not required at all. So in your digital roadmap, what always happens is those 4 projects with 0 investment, 0 budgets being approved by the CEO, CFO, you already have 4 wins. Because if you go to a person and says, why do you do it? You'll always get a justification. But if you go to 20 people and say that let's digitize this, you'll find 4 examples where people tell you, यार करते ही नहीं है, छोड़ दो इसको, इसका कोई फायदा ही नहीं है, ये तो पहले कभी कोई प्रॉब्लम आई थी उसको सॉल्व करने के लिए किया था, it is no longer relevant. And you have your 4 big wins in maybe a month, 2 months. Suddenly you have a very good portfolio. Suddenly you can go back and make all your presentations saying, look, already 1 crore has been saved. Now give me 1 crore so that I can save another 2 crore. I think that's something that's always worked for me. I don't know one organization where I haven't been able to eliminate 3-4 processes that were at least a couple of crores or so in saving.
So great input. In fact, I think long story short, Vishak, the summary of it that I can kind of find out from Sudeep's point is go for things that drive quick value and go by the 80-20 rule as per Ashish, because you will get the 80% value in the 20% items that you can find in the organization. I see that our audience actually has a lot more interesting questions than me. Probably we should let the audience moderate this discussion. You want to bring some more questions very quickly? We are short on time.
I think what we need to do is we have 2 questions which we cannot avoid because of the votes that these questions has, but we would want to do it in a rapid fire fashion, right? So There are two questions, and let me tell you, these are from two different planets, but in a rapid fire fashion, please. Let me put up those questions first. So the first question here is, how do you justify high upfront cost of investment, right, for any digital project to start with? At the same time, we have the pressure of lower TCO of implementation projects as such. I mean, you guys are veteran at this. Give us in a rapid fire answer. What do you think? What is your answer to the public? How do you justify high cost of upfront investment versus the pressure of lower?
So very, very small answer. Huge fan of not having high costs upfront. Huge fan. Right. So yeah, I never try to justify because nobody's been able to justify to me. Just don't do it.
Excellent answer. Uday sir.
Yeah, I would say plan big, but break it up, okay, and project it a small one at a time, and that's the way to go.
Dream big, start small. Excellent. Over to you, Sudeep.
So I say that the high cost itself is a very relative term. If you look at the value is high, take it. If you think the value is not, but remember the time frame, 3 to 4 months. If you do delay more than that, I think people are not going to believe you.
True. Cost is a function of value. Figure the value first. Yeah, very well.
And time,
of course. Yes, cost is a function of value and time. Excellent. Moving on to the next question. This is a question about blockchain, right? So the question here is, okay, we talked about this thing, which is the panel's view on blockchain adoption by organization in India related to smart contracts and stuff like that. So Ashish, over to you.
Highly overrated. Sorry, I know I should be saying more positive things about blockchain, but highly overrated. I think implementation is one thing, but there's an ecosystem. Blockchain is not a technology; it's an ecosystem, and I think very few people are realizing that. It's only the financial world has realized that blockchain is an ecosystem. It's not the technology. You can do everything blockchain can without blockchain.
Yeah.
Until you invest into the ecosystem, I think it's not for everybody. It's a very specialized piece of software.
Wait and watch. FOMO is killing you, if I can summarize it.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, over to you, Dr. Uday.
Yeah, I think I just echo Ashish's answer. It's about the ecosystem. Any technology, when that has to be adopted, if you see that Gartner hype curve, that actually transition happens because there are other related technologies which have not matured, and therefore the adoption will take time.
Well put, Uday sir. Sudeep sir, over to you.
Inevitable. The more the disputes in the world, more the mistrust in the world, inevitable. It's a question of time when it gets matured. It's a question of time when we adopt it.
Excellent. Well put.
So I think Vishak, one thing that I realize is that we have got a great panel for a fireside chat. I can actually do a coffee with Karan kind of a show with this panel. Wish we had a longer time in this panel discussion today. We would have a lot more questions, and in fact, audience brought in some great question. I think we'll probably close with that question. Vishak, would you like to summarize overall view of the panel today?
Absolutely. Thank you, Ankur, for being the partner in crime. And thank you so much, panelists, for sharing your viewpoints today. My key takeaways, if I can put it in these many words: digitization, digitalization, digital transformation, those are terms. Focus on value, end result, think of the canvas, and execution. Focus on execution, right? All panelists had their say on this topic, right? When it comes to practical aspect of digitalization, start looking into, if I can actually, top of my recall, start looking into your processes. That's the biggest opportunity to optimize them, and if need be, to digitize them as such in a quick fashion, right? Dream big, think small, execute smaller, minimum viable product. You don't have to carry a large investment to do any of digitalization, digital transformation as such. Excellent example, be it making doing business in India, so easy, be it an experience that organizations are getting today, to employee onboarding, to policy servicing, to order management, everything, right, under one umbrella. It's hot off the press as such. And needless to say, we are seeing that there's a burst of customers, right? Be it a business as a customer for a B2B or a B2C customer that were previously unknown to all of us because of the unusual growth in digital mobile as such, which is like 2/3 of the companies are saying, yes, we are seeing a new bunch of customers as such. We should be better prepared and better organized, and we can start small with these particular processes and digitization. Allow me to summarize it in this way. This was an excellent conversation. Thank you for sharing your viewpoints and example. And I would like to personally thank Ashish, Dr. Uday, and Sudeep for spending your valuable time with us. And of course, our beloved audience for giving us all those fantastic questions and ratings, giving it a direction to the discussion. Thank you so much. Look forward to to partnering with all of you in the future. Thank you, and have a great evening.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.